kind of the end of the week and into the weekend, we started to hear and read even more about Stanford and Cal and SMU possibly being invited to join the Atlantic Coast Conference. And of course, if you are invited, we all know the outcome. You will not get invited unless they have enough votes. They need 12 of 15 votes. Yes, Notre Dame has a vote. If you take Notre Dame's vote out, they need 11 of 14. So Notre Dame's vote in this sense is irrelevant. So they need less than 4 no votes. The last time they had a straw poll, because there has been no official vote, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, and North Carolina State all said, nah. So, if we're still flirting with the West Coast and Texas, somebody must be at least a soft, okay. Somebody has to be. I don't know who that is. But I'm going to tell you why it's probably the right thing for the ACC to do. Up front, let me just say this before we get into this, before I make the case why this should happen. I find it stupid. It's stupid. It's silly that the Atlantic Coast Conference should be also on the Pacific Coast. No other way to get around it. It's stupid. I would point out it is equally stupid for a conference called the Big Ten to have 18 teams. So I saw this. It's like, why is the ACC in California? I'm like, do you know how many teams are in the Big Ten? Or the Big 12, mind you. So, and it really comes down to a mindset and how we're looking at this. And this is where I think we go wrong. Stanford, Cal, and SMU simply will mean more money to the ACC's bottom line. Part of that is SMU has agreed, according to multiple reports, to take zero media money for the first 7 years of their stay in the ACC. Stanford and Cal are both entering, again, according to multiple reports, at the 30% threshold, which is going to create a pool of money that probably will be in the $50 to $60 million range initially, that the ACC can do with what they wish. On top of that, and I'm not sure why this has been left out, it should increase the shared revenue between ESPN and the ACC that is generated by the ACC network, because the money that you will get from however much it is disintegrated anyway, subscriptions and fees in California and in Texas should mean an increased bottom line for the ACC network, which benefits everybody. So there will be more money, at least in the interim, if Cal, Stanford, and SMU are invited and accept. I assume they will accept. There's no reason to be having this discussion if Stanford and Cal would be, nah. SMU is all in, right? I would argue that I wouldn't even stop at those three. That I would say to San Diego State, Oregon State, and Washington State, we got a home for you too. Why not? Who cares at this point? Seriously, really, who cares? We'll have 20 football teams in the league. We'll have an agreement with Notre Dame. I don't know if Notre Dame's ever going to play Cal or San Diego State or SMU. I don't know. I really don't. Notre Dame's deal might just be to play these other schools, right? They'll probably play Cal because they have been avidly supporting their inclusion in the league. And there are a lot of things to be worked out. I do think it's kind of sad that we finally got to the point where every ACC school could play every other school at least every other year or twice in a 4-year span, And we're already going to have to scrap that. All of that sucks. Okay. But herein lies the reason why I think it's a good idea. Trev Alberts, the athletic director at Nebraska, who I'm not giving credit for having a great idea, clearly is in a room with people who are talking about the future of what college football is going to look like. And he basically called out the people, the conferences, that do not have the courage to expand. And a lot of expansion doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense, other than economically, for the Big Ten to add, or rather, Southern Cal and UCLA. Didn't make any sense other than economically. If it made sense, they would have also added, at the time, Oregon and Washington. They did not. It might be the ACC's biggest missed opportunity. It looks a lot different if Oregon and Washington come along with Cal and Stanford, doesn't it? But treating the Atlantic Coast Conference like a college conference these days is as foolish as adding Cal and Stanford. Folks, the landscape of college football isn't going to be recognizable 5 years from now, 7 years from now. It just won't be. They're destroying it. They're destroying the fabric of the structure. College football will exist forever. The biggest misnomer when I keep saying that we're destroying the fabric of it, people think, well, the people aren't going to watch the games. No, we'll always watch the games. If you are a State fan, you will be a State fan. If State is in the ACC or the BCC or the RC, doesn't make a difference what league State's in, you're going to be a State fan. Doesn't matter if they're an FCS school. I'm not saying they will be. I'm just saying it doesn't matter. You're going to be a State fan. That's never going to change. What is going to change is how all of it looks. And if you think that what we see now can be folded into what will happen, it's wishful thinking. I look at this as a Hail Mary, what the ACC is doing. Hail Marys are born out of desperation. I don't deny that this is born out of desperation. But if you don't chuck it down the field to see what happens, you know what you will do? You will lose. And that's where I believe this is a move, not that the ACC wants to make, but that the ACC feels like they have to make. And I'm at a loss for why people can't see that. Do I like it? Nope. Hate it. Hate it for the sports not named football. Hate it for the fans of every sport, including football. Hate it for the players, even the football players. But that's not what it's about. I think this is the move that has to be made. If they don't, I feel like the ACC, maybe it'll take until 2036, but it will, like Anson Dorrance wants for Cal and Stanford, it will die on the vine. If you're cool with that, then take the chance, take a knee, and see what happens. But I think the ACC will lose. That's just the future of the sport. The future of the sport is 60 teams, all in a pile, all part of a bigger structure. It's not about conferences. The bigger you are, the better chance you have of surviving. And here's about the economics of it. Because we don't know if conference size actually will be a direct correlation to how much money you can pull from the playoff. Because that is a conversation right now that well, if the playoff is generating all of this money and we have 18 schools and you have 14 schools, we should get more money because we have 18 and you have 14. And the leagues right now that have 18 and 16 are the two biggest chip stacks at the table in the Big Ten and the SEC. I just feel like we're headed for a time we have no idea what it's going to look like. And the bigger you are might be the better you are. We'll leave it at that. We're going to talk about this more, but we got to stop pretending that the ACC is a college conference these days, because none of these are college conferences anymore. They are businesses, and they need to be run as such.